This month is just packed with Ascension dust. We got 300 from the crypt, we got 200 from side events, and we have 50 more on the way. So I thought it'd be the perfect time to just make an Ascension guide again, and this time I'm gonna give you more options to play around with, right? So before I get started here, this is for offense and defensive use because dual threat champions are pretty dang valuable in the game right now because of battlegrounds. And additionally, I will include some 7-star champions that I think still are worthy of Ascension because of how powerful they are, or if they need like high sig or something. So yeah, with these two things in mind, let's get started. And first things first is the Science class. Now the Science class is such an insanely strong class, and you have quite a few options here. So for my top options, I have Scorpion, because Scorpion is just the king of the Science class. He is such a powerhouse because of his triple immunities, his triple forms of damage output. He also just has really strong damage output, and he is an amazing DOT character. He can block unblockable. He really just does so many good things that are great for just countering so many different fights, especially in Battlegrounds and Alliance War. Now, Photon is currently a 7-star champion, but if you want the best Photon, then I would ascend the 6-star because a max sig 6-star is crazy good for defense as well. So that's why Photon is in this list, because she is a great champion. She is really hard to fight against, and at max sig, she is an incredible defender. Now, Human Torch is at a point where I think he does want to be ascended now. For a while, you could just have the rank 5 and be fine with that, but with rank 3 7-stars being a thing, I think he is now a top candidate for Ascension, so he can just crush those Sasquatches, those Mangogs, whatever else people have at rank 3, he will just crush for sure, especially if he is ascended. So yeah, Human Torch, still the energy and mystic king. So yeah, really good champion. And so is Spider-Ham. Spider-Ham's a pretty odd one. He's in the middle because he is currently a 7-star character, but he's still really powerful, and that dupe is really good for defense as well. But he is just crazy good for those mystic champions, for those power sting matchups, and just having some crazy good defensive value as well. Now, Jessica Jones is a really strong defender, especially when ascended, and if the nodes are in her favor, she becomes really troublesome. And additionally, she's good for quite a few matchups if she is ascended because her attack rating at that level is just really good. Now, Cassie Lang is also just an incredible champion. She's super tanky, her power stings are great, her immunities are super useful, and her taunt is just really overpowered. And when she is ascended, it is just a very nice damage bump, and it makes her even more tanky because with Inequity, with the taunt, you just take 0 damage, I feel like. And with that ascended health pool, it is just so much crazier. Now, Silk is fantastic as well, and she's a good Ascension because she wants the highest rank possible because of how she works. A burst character really wants to be at the max rank so they can just burst things down with an ideal rotation. So that is why Silk really wants to be ascended, and she is just a great attacker overall with the slow, with the dex immunity, and like I said, that incredible burst damage. Now, Spot is really good as well, and he really wants to be ascended because with 7-star rank 3 champions coming out, you want him to have as much health as possible because of his portal blocking mechanic. And additionally, he is a burst champion just like Silk, so you want him to have that range to just one-shot those rank 3 defenders. So that is why Spot is such a good Ascension, because he really wants max sig as well, so the 7-star won't really be as good as him for a while. So yeah, the Science class has some great Ascensions for sure, but now let's talk about the skill class. But now we have the skill class, and I think Nick Fury is the #1 skill Ascension for sure because the benefit he gets on defense and attack is just insane. On defense, you give his second life even more health, and you give his first life even more health as well. So you're bumping up 2 health pools, which is just insane. And additionally, on attack, he becomes a lot more viable. So that is why he is so good to ascend, because in the first life, you don't do like as much damage as the second life, of course, but when he's ascended, that first life damage output is honestly really viable. So yeah, Nick Fury, just a great ascension, still the king of the skill class in my opinion. Damage output is just way too good, and the utility is just crazy as well. And with Kate Bishop, it's the same thing. She has so much damage output and utility, and I feel like she'll be 6-star locked for a while, so you want to have her ascended because she'll just take more fights even faster. She's crazy good for Alliance War, for Battlegrounds especially, and she is just one of the strongest attackers in the game. So there's no reason why you shouldn't want to just, up her stats to make her even better on attack. She has great cold snap damage, she counters miss and evade, but really that damage is just so powerful. But with Kingpin, it's kind of the opposite. He is just a tanky monster that is so good for like questing, Alliance War, even Battlegrounds in the right metas. And when he's ascended, he becomes a really good defender as well. So he is a good two-way champion. But when he's ascended, his damage becomes a lot more viable in like those generic matchups. So he becomes not just like a debuff heavy character, he becomes good pretty much anywhere. And with that tankiness as well, that gets powered up by Ascension, he is just a really strong character. Now Valkyrie is just really strong as well, and what she's good for, which is like, just matchups where you can hit block and just ignore pretty much every node, she just crushes, right? And having that extra damage output makes her go through those fights even faster, and she is just so worth investing into as an ascended character. She hasn't been like as popular as of recently, but I feel like as the meta shift, she will just get even more use overall because she is just still super reliable, right? Now for my secondary options, I have Crossbones and Atuma. Now I think Crossbones is a really strong character, but him being a 7-star has me a bit 50-50. But a Max Sig Crossbones is just insane for those debuff heavy matchups. He is crazy good at just shutting off abilities, and whenever he is awakened in Max Sig, he is just such a strong purified champion as well. So I think Crossbones has a ton of value as an ascended Max Sig 6-star, but also Atuma is just incredible as well, especially for defense, because a 7-star Atuma is pretty good, right? Like a Sig 21 especially, but a Max Sig Atuma just does so much work. And he gets those 2 concussions, which means more Thorns damage at the start. And an Ascended Atuma just has that health pool, so he doesn't get that obliterated by those really burst heavy champions. That's why I think Atuma is just really worth investing into as a 6-star ascended champion, because that health pool increase and that Max Sig ability is just way too useful. Now for the purgatory characters, I have Mcoc and Spider-Man Stealth Suit, who I think are honestly worthy of being top options, but I'm not fully sold yet. And I think Mcoc, it's mainly because he is going to be a 7-star champion and he doesn't need to be awakened in the slightest. So that's why I'm kind of torn on him, but he is just so powerful. He's so good for Battlegrounds and even sometimes Alliance War as well. His damage output is just absurd. And when you ascend him, he just becomes good for any fight in the game pretty much. He can even take long fights too. Now, Stealth Suit Spider-Man is just unreal as well. He's really good for like Alliance War and Battlegrounds especially, and he is a squishy champion, so ascending him makes him a lot more safer to play and just lets him burst down those fights even faster. But with his slow, his anti-miss, his access to power control as well, he is just a really strong attacker that has so much utility to go with that too. And for my purgatory at like the bottom, where I feel like these champions are great, but I wouldn't put them in the secondary just yet, I have Baron Zemo and I have Mole Man as well. Now, Baron Zemo, I think, does have some pretty good value as a defender, but he also does very well in long fights and debuff matchups, so he does have quite a few uses for sure. those non-contact hits are pretty good too, and ascending him just makes him an even more annoying defender, and it lets him like just be a better attacker overall because his damage output needs to get all the love possible. Now Mole Man, my favorite champion in this game by far, a champion that I just have a love for that I don't think will ever be topped ever. I just love this champion so much, and I think he is a really good Ascension, but I didn't want to show too much bias, so I just put him here. But yeah, I love this character so much. I think he is such a good Ascension too because he is a burst champion, so you want him to be like as powerful as possible so you can just take those matchups really safely. And yeah, I just love Mole Man so much, and I wish I was just a better player so I could show you like how good he is in the hands of someone that like is really skilled with him, but I'm just not that player. I wish I was because I love this champion so much, but if you want to take my word for it, I think he is such a good Ascension, and you should definitely try him out if you're interested because in the right hands, he is just such a powerful character, but I feel like my gameplay just lets him down. But yeah, he is also a great two-way champion because of his pretty big health pool and tankiness, and when it's ascended, it just becomes like even more crazier to deal with. So yeah, Mole Man, incredible two-way champion, really strong attacker, and yeah, champion that just really deserves the world. But now it's time for the Mutant Class, and you have quite a few options here, but first up is Onslaught. This champion is just so powerful already, and when he's ascended, he just becomes even more monstrous of a damage dealer. He's great for long fights, he's great for short fights, he's a good defender as well, so giving him more health is just a really good idea. Just incredible overall. Archangel is just Archangel, right? Has so much damage output, he shuts down abilities, and when he's ascended, he just becomes even faster, so there isn't as much RNG reliance. And then Kitty Pryde is just also insane, of course. She has really good damage output. She can just take 0 damage as well. And ascending her just makes her even more safe to play because her health pool is pretty small. So if you do mess up, ascending her can just make her, you know, survive a few more hits, right? And Omega Red is honestly the perfect Ascension because the way his damage output scales is with base attack only, so having his base attack be upped by Ascension is just really useful, and he is a burst champion as well, so you want him to be as powerful as possible so he can just take those burst fights like really comfortably. Now Ascending Domino is just evil because it ups her critical failure damage, it ups her health pool as well, and it just makes her super annoying to fight. And on attack, it does some pretty good stuff for her too because it just gives her, you know, more damage, which is always nice. But like on defense especially, it is just such an annoyance to fight her. And at Mag Sig too, it is just really punishing if you do mess up. So yeah, Domino, just a great Ascension for sure. Now Apocalypse is a really cool character, of course, and he's definitely fallen off, right? But ascending him just gives him a bit more practicality in like battlegrounds, makes him even safer to use in Alliance War with that massive health pool, and makes him a pretty good two-way with that, you know, tankiness, right? So I think ascending him is pretty good, and he's a great champion, of course, but just isn't as good as he once was. Now, Weapon X is just a really good dual threat character, can do some crazy stuff on attack, but on defense is just really annoying too without the right counter. So yeah, just a great investment for sure. Having him just ascended means that he is more annoying with the regen, and that damage output becomes insane on attack as well. Now Havoc is just a really good two-way character too, and ascending him means that the opponent can like always mess up more often and just, you know, take a ton of plasma damage. And additionally, with his like SP3 being really burst reliant, it lets him just burst down more health pools with that massive damage. So yeah, Havoc is a great Ascension too. He is a 7-star now, but he's also really new, so I think it is a safe one. And he is just great for those energy matchups. He's great for just having, you know, non-contact hits. Just an overall really strong champion. And for my honorable mention, or like the purgatory, I have Iceman. Now, I think Iceman is great. He can counter evade really well, which is good for Bullseye. He has great immunities too, and he is just a good two-way character as well with the cold snap at the start of the fight. So yeah, overall just a really, really strong champion, and I feel like as time goes on, he will go up in this list. But yeah, that is the mutant class, and now it's time for the tech class. Now, future Ant-Man is just really, really good. He has access to that 10% damage cap, he has the armor ups, he has the glancing, he has the power control, he really just does it all. And ascending him just makes him an even more powerful two-way champion because the tankiness just really goes up in value, and he becomes more annoying with the glance, and like his damage output just gets a massive bump too. So yeah, overall just a really good Ascension. And same thing with Nimrod, because with 7-star rank 3 champions coming out, like the mutant ones especially, he wants to be as powerful as possible so he can just like burst down those mutant champions in 1 SP2, and if he is ascended, he can do just that. He is great for mutant champions. He can just counter healing, counter prowess. Nimrod just has great utility for sure, but that burst damage is also just really, really good. Now, Ghost is also just, of course, one of the strongest characters in the game. She can go pretty much debuff immune, she can counter evade, she just takes pretty much 0 damage from the phase mechanic. She is just really, really powerful, right? But in those non-debuff matchups, she isn't the best damage-wise, so ascending her just makes her, a lot better in that category, and it makes her safer to play as well. So yeah, ascending Ghost is just a really, really good idea because she probably won't be a 7-star champion ever. Now, for my secondary options, I have Shocker. Shocker's just a really good character that really does scale off of rank, right? He wants to be the highest rank possible because he scales off of base attack, so he really wants to be ascended. And of course, he is just great for like those mutant matchups, those prowess matchups, pretty much anything because of just how powerful that heavy attack is. Just a really, really good attacker and really wants to be ascended for sure. Now, Stark Spidey is just a really good attacker as well. He has those consistent crits, he has the power drain, the taunt, all really good mechanics for sure. But his one issue is his squishiness, so when you ascend him, that just pretty much goes away because he becomes a lot more tankier with his health pool. So Stark Spidey is just a really good Ascension for sure. Now, Red Skull is honestly a very interesting one because he is very new, right? But on defense, he is just so annoying. And his health pool is pretty small, so ascending him means that he gets a lot more health, so he becomes even more annoying to fight. So yeah, Ascended Red Skull is just a really, really good idea because he is just so annoying on defense now. He has the Unstoppable, the Auto Block, the Armor Ups, the Stun Immunity. It is just all really, really terrible. Now, Omega Sentinel is also just really good as well. Ascending her makes her a lot safer to play because her health pool is just super low, and giving her more health means that she is, just safer overall. She has great damage output, her armor ups are really, really good, she has access to cowardice, to heal block, to tracking as well, and it's just your resident, good tech attacker. Now, for my 3 honorable mentions, I have Ultron, Guardian, and Iron Man. And Doom. I have 4. I lied. Yeah, I have 4 mentions. All these champions are just really, really good. I think Ultron is kind of falling off a bit, but ascending him is a good idea because he wants to be Max Zig. So even though he's a 7-star champion, having him ascended means that you have pretty much all of his utility just at the ready. So yeah, really good character, immune to 4 things, has some really strong damage output, and can just tank energy damage really well too. And Guardian is just a really tanky champion as well, and he can just burst down so many fights, and ascending him just gives him easier access to that burst damage. And of course, he has great utility with his signature ability, with the energy res, the bleed res, the increased tankiness. It is just all really, really good. And when he is ascended, he honestly becomes kind of a great defender as well because of his tankiness and that extra health pool too. Now, additionally, Iron Man is just really, really good too. when he's ascended, he just gets, more damage output. It's pretty simple, but he does benefit a lot from it because of the way his damage output works. Because once he's out of Arc Reactor, it is a bit annoying to build him back up. So if he is ascended, he can just try to burst down the opponent before Arc Reactor does go away, which is why ascending him is a pretty good idea. He is a 7-star champion though, but then again, his signature ability is really, really good for increasing his attack rating. And Idoom is a champion that has fallen off for sure, but I think he is still pretty good. In those matchups where he can just power control the opponent, or he can just, utilize his prowess removal, he does really, really good things. But ascending him makes him even better for those generic matchups as well. And it makes him really good on defense too. So I think he's a great dual threat character. Not as popular today, but still does some pretty great things. Is still insane for Bishop especially, and can take pretty much all of the new mutant champions. Maybe not Onslaught though, but besides that, he still is really, really good. But yeah, I think Idoom is still a great investment because of its defensive value too. And that is it for the tech class. So now it's time for the cosmic class. Now the cosmic class is just kind of sad at this point. The imbalance is just unreal. So you're going to see that the rankings here are very, very weird. But for my top 4, I have Hercules because it's Hercules. He has immortality. He has access to just the craziest ability in the game. His damage output is just insane. He has great utility as well. He just does pretty much everything. And I think he is by far the most helpful Ascension for any account. And also when he's ascended, he's honestly a great 2-way champion because he has a ton of health now, and the Infuriate is just really, really annoying too. Now Hulkling is just a really great 2-way champion as well. When he's ascended, that health pool is just really, really nasty. And of course he has great defensive abilities like Indestructible, Pierce, and Regen. On attack, he has great immunities. He has really strong damage output in those burst matchups too, so ascending him makes him stronger for those. And yeah, Hulkling just a fantastic 2-way character. And Gallon is just a really, really strong burst champion too, but he really, really wants to be the highest rank possible because with his harvest scaling, he wants the highest attack rating possible because it scales off of attack rating only. And with an ascended Gallon, he can take pretty much any health pool in Battlegrounds and Alliance War. So that's why it's important to just ascend your Gallon if you do enjoy him, because he is just really, really powerful. And on defense, he is pretty good too with that extended health pool. Now, Cosmic Ghost Rider is just obviously really, really strong damage-wise. Good for short fights, good for long fights, good anywhere with that massive damage and the armor breaks. And it's always nice to ascend him because it's better to have a safer CGR with more health and more survivability, because if you do mess up, it can really just throw off his rotation. So you want to have a pretty good safety net. And if you have more damage output, the odds of you messing up are a lot more slim. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to have him ascended for sure. But now I have the secondary options. Well, I have the Purgatory now, and that goes to Corvus Glaive. Yeah, Corvus Glaive is in Purgatory because he's a really good champion, of course, especially in Alliance War, but he's not everyone's cup of tea. He requires a ton of investment as well, but if he's ascended, if he has all the right masteries, he is just a monstrous character overall, so I feel he is worth it if you do plan on playing him in Alliance War, right? But now for my secondary option, I have Adam Warlock, and just Adam Warlock because the Cosmic class is just really unbalanced. But Adam Warlock is a good champion. He has unblockable true damage. He has pretty much guaranteed crits, just really strong furies as well. And ascending him just makes him get, more damage, of course, but also makes him safer to play because of his, extended health pool and that extra regen too. And on defense, he becomes a lot more annoying because his health pool is pretty small at base. So if you extend that further, it really shows his defensive power. And for my honorable mentions, I have Cersei and Angela. Both of these champions are just crushing it in Alliance Raid. So that's why I put them here. They're just really, really good in that piece of content. Angela is great for like any DOT matchup, for any like auto block or any nullify matchup too. It's great for incursions. Just overall great investment for sure. Now Cersei is a good two-way character for like attack and defense, has some very strong damage output. Her glancing is really, really good too, and just overall is pretty strong as a two-way champion. So both of these characters I think are great ascensions for sure, but I wouldn't put them at the top just yet. Now the last time I made an Ascension video, one thing stood out to everyone, and it was the fact that I didn't include Dr. Doom in it, and that was honestly just because I kind of forgot him. I think he is incredible, and I think he is one of the best Ascensions to do. So yeah, I didn't forget him this time. He is just an incredibly strong character, has great defensive potential, and of course has some of the best power control in the game, has great damage output, is good for just so many different matchups, and is honestly just so reliable to this day. So yeah, a great Ascension for sure. And Tiger is just an insane damage dealer too. She really wants max sig and probably will never be a 7-star character, so ascending her is just a really smart play so she can just handle those rank 3 7-star defenders. And Absorbing Man is another character that I feel like is just a really, really great utility and damage mix. He is really good damage-wise in those matchups where he can just take advantage of his immunities, especially armor break ones for sure, and he just has great sustainability with his like energy and physical res, with his regen too, and having access to just all those immunities is really, really good, and ascending him just makes him better like damage-wise for those generic matchups, and it makes him a better defender overall too. Now, Werewolf by Night may surprise you, but this guy is making absolute waves in the contest. He is such a great two-way champion because his defensive potential is really, really strong with that really high health pool, but his craziest thing is his attack value for sure, because he can just take so many fights because of the fact that he is just a rupture DPS. He can just hit you through block. He can just take like any hazard shift lane because of that. It is just some crazy good stuff. His damage output is just fantastic, and in buff heavy matchups it is just quite absurd as well. He is just such a good attacker, and ascending him just makes him even better for those burst matchups. So yeah, Werewolf by Night is just really, really strong, and I think he is a great Ascension because of his two-way potential. And Kushala is just one of the best Mystic attackers in the game at this point. Just so good damage-wise. Her Soul Barb is so good for like Adam Warlock, for Maestro as well. She is just such a useful champion, and ascending her just gives her even more damage output potential. And yeah, just a really powerful character. I feel like overall she would just keep on getting better and better as time goes on. Just a really well done champion that just has so much use in the game already. And Rintrah is one that's like kind of fallen off, but he still has a ton of use whenever ascended because that health pool is just insane. So that's already some great defensive value, and he still is really good at just shutting off buffs with his neutralize, especially against cosmic characters. So yeah, I think that like Rintrah does have some use still overall, especially like as a two-way champion. But I haven't seen him used as much because of like, you know, challenger rating just giving him a ton damage wise, and him just, I don't know, not having like, you know, a purpose in the game right now, because some champions just counter neutralize, which is unfortunate, or they just like don't really account for his abilities. But I think he's still really, really strong. He has great survivability with that health pool, and like I said, if he does crit, it is some great damage output too, and of course that amazing buff control. Now the Hood is a champion that I have to watch my words with because his fan base is really, really scary. But yeah, the Hood is just a champion that has so much potential with like his damage output form, and like the way he can just shut down buffs completely with his Fate Seal and his dagger, and he has a really strong phase. He can just do a ton of different fights for those reasons, and he is just a really strong, you know, attacker. So ascending him is just a really good idea for sure. And Longshot for my secondary options is just a really great champion too. His Nullify is still one of the best in the game. His Fate Seal is super strong. His damage output in those buff heavy matchups is still really, really good. and ascending him gives him some pretty good damage output in non-buff matchups too, and it makes him a great defender as well because of his extended health pool. Now for my Purgatory, I have Spider-Man Supreme and Kindred. Now Kindred is a great defender for sure. He is a 7-star, but his max sig ability is just really useful, and I think he does want to be ascended to have any use on attack as well. So yeah, just a great investment for sure. Really good defender, decent attacker when he's ascended, and Spider-Man Supreme is also just a really fun champion as well. Pretty good damage wise, and does have, a pretty small health pool, so ascending him just makes him a lot more safer to play. So yeah, both of these champions are just great ascensions for sure, but I wouldn't put him at the top just yet. And yeah, that is my list for all my best ascensions. I might have missed a few characters, I'm sorry if I did, but I just think that all these characters are fantastic. But of course, do who you want to do, right? Do your favorite champion because they deserve it, right? You love them, so take them up all the way and just have some fun with them, right? But let me know your thoughts on this guide, and yeah, that's about it for me.